Hello everyone. Let's look at verse number 33 and 34 of chapter 5 in the Quran and discuss about this concept in the Quran that is called corruption in the earth. يَسْعَوْنَ فِي الْأَرْضِ فِسَادًا. Because this is, it means those who basically spread corruption in the earth. It's a little bit of a technical discussion, but this term has been used in Islamic countries for centuries to basically suppress and commit crimes against oppositions. And even currently, as of today, if you go to countries like Iran, Afghanistan, and those countries who really practice this, they have unfortunately similar medieval interpretation of this verse. So a lot of crimes have been committed because of this concept. So let's see what it says in verse number 33 of chapter 5. It says the recompense, the reparation, the punishment for those who fight Allah and His Messenger. It says يُحَارِبُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. It means not fight, a mental, verbal, political. The word used is يُحَارِبُونَ. It comes from harb. Harb means actual war. It means physical wars. When you have like tanks, guns, and you go to fight against someone. At the time, obviously, 1400 years ago, it was when you would gather an army with swords and you would just like really fight against someone. So that's a war. When you basically, I should say, those who make a war against Allah and His Messenger. Interestingly, here the term, for example, of another leader or ul al-amr or any of those, none of those terms is used. Here is talking only about those who make war against God and His Messenger. So for example, this would apply to those who made, hypothetical situation, made war against Moses or against Jesus Christ or against Abraham, but it does not apply to those who made war against someone else as long as that person is not God's messenger. I just want to make that, I want to clarify that. It's only about those who make war against Allah, God, and His messenger. And then right after that, it says, وَيَسْعَوْنَ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَسَادًا, and they cause corruption on the earth. So basically, what is the conclusion? Those who fight against God and His messenger are causing corruption on the earth. And then it obviously specifies some punishment. Is that the punishment is that they should be killed. Why? Because they are in a war. They're waging war. If obviously you don't do anything, they're going to kill you, right? So it's a war. That's what's happening in any war, even as of today. It's happening in all the wars. Please go study all these modern wars. Killed or crucified, which was a method of killing back then, or that their hands and feet be, here they have interpreted this as cut off. That's not what it means. To be made a cut in their both hands and their, basically in the old days, they would hang you, not kill you, but they would just make cuts in your hand and in your arm. That's another video. And then basically you would bleed to death gradually. And sometimes you wouldn't, you would heal. So it depends on that. And then it gets less and less, or that they should be banished from basically that land, wherever you live. You banish to another place. And then the next verse, it says, except for those who repent before you overpower them. The word used, أَن تَقْدَرُوا عَلَيْهِمْ. What that means, again, is verifying that they are in an active physical war. So basically, if they repent, they're like, okay, we are no longer in a war against you, then that's okay. If you have it's in a battlefield and you actually overpower them in the battlefield and then they repent, says that doesn't count. Now, verse number 30 of chapter 2, It says, will you, these are the angels, when our Creator is creating mankind, is creating Adam. The angels are telling him, will you place on it? So God tells him that I'm going to put someone on earth as my representative. Khalif means representative. So I'm going to put someone on the earth to control the earth as my representative. Then the angels object and say, will you place on the earth those who will spread corruption? Man yafsudu fiha. Spread corruption and shed blood. Again, I want you to notice that spreading corruption is when you're shedding blood, when you're killing and causing chaos in the community. Verse number 22 of chapter 47, it says, would you perhaps, after having turned away from God's commandments and reverting to your old ways. So this is talking to the people at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, that they're claiming they're believers. It says, فَحَلْ عَسَيْتُمْ إِن تَوَلَّيْتُمْ. Will you perhaps, after you turn away, it's a prophecy. I want you to pay attention to this. It's a prophecy that already came true. Spread corruption and tufsidu fil ard. Will you spread corruption on earth? What does it mean? Start killing each other, killing other people, and taqta'u arhamakum, and cut asunder, sever your ties of kinship. This happened after Prophet Muhammad. Why? During the civil wars. There were 2 civil wars, and basically many of the believers back then who used to be believers, they reverted to their old ways. And how did they do it? Through hadith, through he said, she said. All these hadiths, basically they went back to all their old ways. They brought about everything. They recreated that old religion. And the other thing that they did was that they severed their kinships. They killed each other. If you look at what happened to the family of Prophet Muhammad, and a lot of people who were killed, they were cousins. Most of these people were cousins, first cousin, second cousin. So they basically, now when it came down to power and money, that didn't matter, and they killed each other, massacred the family of the Prophet and many of his disciples and all those things. And this was a prophecy that was fulfilled, unfortunately. And so that is corruption on earth. Those civil wars, when they were killing each other, massacring each other, that was corruption on earth. Now, verse number 81 of chapter 10, it says, verily God does not help. It says, God does not further the works of those who spread corruption on earth, the spreaders of corruption. So it's talking about who? It's talking about Pharaoh here. So the Quran considers Pharaoh and what he was doing at the time of Moses as spreading corruption in the earth. And then verse number 91 of chapter 10 is the same thing. It says, when Pharaoh repents, and God asks him, are you repenting now? And so far you have been amongst those who spread corruption on earth. By what? The question is, why was he spreading corruption on earth? And verse number 4 of chapter 28 actually explains that for us. It says, Pharaoh became exalted on the earth, became above the law. So Pharaoh and his government became above the law. They became haughty. They became superior in the land. Which land? Land of Egypt. But they were actually a superpower back then in the earth as well. But they became superior. They became above the law. They became haughty. The word uses ala fil ard. And then what did they do? وَجَعَلَ أَهْلَهَا شَيْعًا. They divided its people into castes, into categories. One group of them they kept weak. يَسْتَضْعِفُ طَائِفَةً مِّنْهُمْ. So there were several groups of people living in the earth, in that land, in Egypt back then. But they constantly kept what group of them weak? They were oppressing that group of people. They wouldn't let them become strong. They wouldn't let them gain power or any sort of position in the land. So they kept them weak. And what would they do to them? يُذَبِّحُ أَبْنَاءَهُمْ. They would kill their sons and they would keep their women alive. So at least they would not kill their women, but they would just keep their women alive, but they would kill their men. Then it says, "Ennahu kana min al-mufsidin." Very definitely, indeed, he was one of those who caused corruption on earth. He basically, what is this? It's talking about apartheid regime, right? So Pharaoh has an apartheid regime. This is what you call an apartheid regime, right? That's exactly what we had this in South Africa as well. It's an apartheid regime. So he was just keeping a group of them weak, killing them constantly. When other groups, they were living safely and soundly on the earth. So he was from those who caused corruption on earth. This becomes a precursor for the end times. Now, verse number 127 of chapter 7 is very interesting because now Pharaoh and his people and his government actually believe that Moses and his followers and the Israelites are the corruptors on the earth. Look what they say. It says, they're talking to Pharaoh, says, "Will you, Pharaoh, allow Moses and his people to spread corruption on the earth?" What is Moses? Moses is not, remember, engaging in any sort of war, any sort of battlefield. He's not fighting. He's not causing any sort of war. He's just inviting. So whereas Pharaoh is actually actively killing. But Moses' revolution is very peaceful. He's not engaging in any sort of violence. All he's asking is that, let my people go. We just want to leave your land peacefully. You don't like us here. Completely understand. Now we want to leave. Let us leave. Nobody's raising arms. Nobody's taking up swords. Nobody's fighting. Nobody wants to go to the battlefield. So he's not actually causing corruption. Pharaoh and his people are basically considering them as corruptors on earth. Verse number 73 of chapter 12, Joseph's brothers, when they come to Egypt, they say the same thing after they're accused of being thieves. They say that you know that we have not come here to this land to cause corruption. Remember, they were foreigners. So they were being accused, are you spies? Have you come to cause revolution and cause it says we are not here to cause corruption, and we are definitely not thieves either. Verse number 64 of chapter 5, it's a long verse. You can read it yourself. I'm just going to read the relevant part. It says, every time they kindle the light, the fires of war. Again, physical war, of getting into war, God extinguishes that light of that fire. And they strive to cause corruption on the earth. Why? Because they constantly are kindling or lighting, trying to create wars in the world. So God is talking about any group of people, any nation, any country that constantly is trying to create wars as those who cause corruption on the earth. It doesn't matter where you are, which country you are. If a country or a nation is constantly trying to light the fires of war, that country, is a nation, is a group of people that is a corrupter on the earth, constantly spreading and causing corruption on the earth. Verse number 205 of chapter 2 says, وَإِذَا تَوَلَّى سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا. It says, but whenever, it's talking about this group of people or those who cause corruption, or a specific person, this might be a prophecy that we don't know, he goes about the earth, سَعَى فِي الْأَرْضِ, spreading corruption. لِيُفْسِدَ فِيهَا, it causes corruption in the earth. How? يُهْلِكُ الْحَرْثَ وَالنَّسْلَ. What it means is that it destroys and kills the crops, the cultivation, tilth, and progeny, and kills people, causes a lot of bloodshed. Again, you see the same thing, causing bloodshed, causing famine, destroying crops and cultivations. So that's the same thing. And then verse number 11 of chapter 2, about that group of people, that person, that powerful person that will take power and cause a lot of bloodshed in the earth. It says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, when it is told to them, do not cause corruption on earth. Do not cause so much bloodshed. Why are you causing so much bloodshed? Why are you causing so much destruction in the earth? Amongst the countries, amongst the nations, amongst people. What do they say? The answer is that قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. Says we are actually peacemakers. We are by causing all these corruptions, we are bringing about peace. So we are doing something good. We are improving things. So it's very interesting that God tells us about the mentality of these people, that they think basically they are doing a good thing. So in going back to verse number 33 and 34 of chapter 5, I want to mention that this verse only applies to those who wage war against who? Against our Creator, against God and His messenger. So this does not apply to someone who wages war against me, for example, or against any of the ruling Muslim governments or non-Muslim governments or whatever they are. We don't have any Muslim government in this world. These are worshippers of Akbar. It's completely, I have several videos of Akbar. We don't have any true Islamic government in the world. It has not existed since about 30 years after Prophet Muhammad. But it doesn't apply to that. It applies to only those only those who wage war against God and His messenger. Both of these conditions have to be met, and then yes, this has to be met as well. However, there is nothing as cutting off the hands or cutting off the feet. This is making a cut in the hand and making a cut in the feet. I have another video about this. I will put the link down in the description so you can see that as well, so you can actually go over that. And then what is corruption on earth? Corruption on earth is not that when an opposition or a group says something. No, it's when someone is actually engaging in act of war, raising arms and causing a rebellion, a violent military rebellion, which will cause a lot of people to die and things like that, is corruption on earth. Peace and blessings to all of you. As always, if you read the Quran, if you let the Quran speak, Quran makes itself very clear. The same with the Bible, the same with the Torah. There's nothing exceptional about the Quran. God's words are the same. They say the same thing. And as we in this channel, we have been looking at several verses of the Bible, and we are going to look more into that, and you're going to see the exact same thing. Prophecy is the same. It's very clear. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. Peace and blessings to all of you.